Now, this illustration deals with insulation or covering, basically, of conductors. Now, notice first, let's review the note. And it states the overhead drop consists of 3 insulated conductors that are wrapped around a messenger cable. The messenger cable is used to support those conductors as they terminate to that maybe 2-inch riser going through that roof and terminate back to the utility pole to support those conductors that are basically coming off the secondary side of that transformer. Now, the conductors individually should be insulated. Now, many times these old existing installations where you had 3 single conductors routed over and connected to maybe a riser or to the building in the manner required by code. As that insulation became old, it became brittle. And if it began to sag in any manner, when they got together, when wind blew, man, they would pop like you wouldn't believe. And they'd blow themselves from one another. Sometimes they might even blow a cutout fuse if it was sized, very low in rating. So it became a problem, and they just developed better insulation instead of that old tree insulation they used to have on those drops. Better insulation was developed, so the insulation, the individual conductors with their insulation for outside usage could just wrap right around that messenger cable. So as you see in that illustration, those conductors are insulated. Now the conductors at the weatherhead would have to meet 310.10D as in dog in the NEC and 310.6D so that the insulation exposed to the sun would not deteriorate in any way. So you know pretty well now these outside conductors that are rated for outside use, exposed to sunlight, dampness, wetness, rain, stuff of that nature, are designed for that purpose. Or, some of the existing stuff, we used to go in, use a boot and just boot them with the type of insulation to surround the existing insulation, or conductors that had developed, bare areas in the insulation and so forth. Now, we suggest to really get a good handle on what 230.22 is talking about, well, in the NEC for phases that you see boxed in information, we start you off with a review of 230.22, and then read 230.30, 230.41, and then read 310.10C if your insulation is exposed to the outside, which would be a W-rated wire rated for the outside use that we would select from that section, or table 310.104A kind of lists the characteristics of insulations on conductors and that surround the copper and so forth, or the aluminum, or copper clad, whatever you may have. So we suggest read these sections along with reading 30.54 for the weatherhead. Then we get a good feel for what's really required. Now, I know sometimes as a designer, as an installer, you don't want to take time to read these sections, but that's when you make mistakes. And that's when the inspector comes out and turns the job down. And we as an electrician might want to get upset about that when we're really the ones that are in the wrong because we didn't read up on it like we should. Now, we give you these sections to read, which is more trouble to provide these sections than just the NEC 230.22. But we want you as the electrician or the designer to know which sections really deal with what you're designing or installing. So figure 6-12A simply deals with insulation or covering. in accordance with NEC 230.22.